Have the main event: Hulkamania versus the Ultimate Warrior. Team Warrior or Team Hulkamania? Maria.
I'm rooting for the Ultimate Warrior.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone's surprised after watching the last
Well,
few
yeah. I
episodes.
mean, I think we've established this in the beginning that we're not very much Hulk Hogan fans, even though back then I probably would have been. Uh, but I think at this time I would have been actually on Team Warrior because eventually I just got tired of Hulk Hogan just doing his hulking up, three punches,
His whole
sending
shtick.
someone to the ropes, big boot, drop it, and eventually just got tired of watching that. But Wayne, were you also Team Warrior, or
Yeah, man,
this is what
I'll
you
tell you
stayed
what.
up for
I'll
when
tell
you
you
were
what.
young Wayne?
This is the match that split me right down the middle. You know, I was a big Hulk Hogan fan. I was Ultimate Warrior for me was new, refreshing, and this is the main event where you have two faces.
Mhm.
You know, we there's only like two other times that we get an April 1st WrestleMania with two faces going against each other. And I think we had like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, and we had John Cena and Shawn Michaels on April 1st for two face wrestlers. So it's always I know they don't book it often, but I like it when we get two face wrestlers because it really divides the crowd.
Yeah. And then you can also see how good they're good at working on the fly.
Yeah,
the two guys in the ring, or like being able to assess who should go over, because back then they if the ref didn't have the earpiece in, they'd have to call it in the ring.
Yeah.
And
Very
if
vastly different.
Yeah, so most of those finishes were either done inside the ring if Vince was like very trusting of you to be like, yeah, I'm trusting you guys. If you guys think that this is the way it should go instead of the way we are saying it should go, then yeah, go out and do it, and I'll fix it later.
Yeah. This has the biggest entrance of the night, I would say. Hulk Hogan with his classic, and neither of these guys got the scissor lift entrance because
I thought Hogan came in the scissor lift.
Maybe he did.
Did he?
I don't.
You gonna check?
Maybe he did, because I was too busy running around the house in the living room when this was going on, because my girlfriend, who hasn't seen this match before, and I was like, oh my God, like, wait until you see the Ultimate Warrior, right? So I'm in the kitchen. This is legit what happened. I'm in the kitchen. Ultimate Warrior's music hits. I do my Ultimate Warrior run from the kitchen through the dining room to the living room, around the living room to the dining room to the kitchen again. This guy would run himself out of breath before he even starts his match. Get to the ropes, shaking the ropes like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Like, this guy, the music, I don't care who you are, if you're a fan or not, this music got you hyped.
Yeah.
It did exactly that. Like, his music got you hyped, got your adrenaline pumping. Like, you felt like you were there with him. And then, Hulk Hogan's classic music hits. He does all the classic poses, the and I get it. I get it, Carlos, with the 5 moves of doom. We've seen it with people like John Cena, where this guy's been a face for so many years, and the music hasn't changed, the gimmick hasn't changed, the outfits are the same. Even though John Cena's outfits changed every week, it was still the Fruity Pebble colored shirts. The gimmick was still the same, but we loved it. Like put it. Let's just like whenever we talk about people like Chris Benoit, put it aside the personal life, everything outside the ring, everything current. 70-year-old Hulk Hogan saying old man things. At this time, at this time in the 90s, like Hulk Hogan was everything. Like, for kids, like this is the man who was, he was starting to show up in movies like Gremlins and Suburban Commando and Mr. Nanny. Like, this was the WWF wrestler crossing over in the movies. He was like nowhere as close as The Rock is today. But like at the time, like, oh my God, like I know this guy. Like, you see him in a movie, you're like, oh my God, that's Hulk Hogan. Like, I know this guy. Like, not a lot of people would know him, but everybody now knows who Hulk Hogan is. Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who John Cena is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but like, so this was at the time, this was like the passing of the torch, you know,
Yeah.
like that's what it was believed in. Hulk believed like, oh, this is me passing the torch on to the Warrior. The Warrior's going to carry the belt, carry the company from here on forward. I'm going to go and do something else, you know, and, but the Warrior just wasn't the man. Unfortunately, he just wasn't the man. 5 minutes into this match, they're in lockup and Warrior's like, let's take it home, man. Let's take it home. And Hulk's like, no, brother. Like, we're 5 minutes into this match. We're not taking it home. He's like, you're going to gorilla press me, you know, over your head and drop me. And I'm going to kick out of your finisher. And then we're going to keep going. You know, Ultimate Warrior was, even though as jacked as that guy was, he wasn't really conditioned. Like, his stamina wasn't there.
Nope.
He couldn't go on long matches. And you know, when you're a kid, you don't realize it. But when you watch it today, the Warrior was a sloppy wrestler. This guy, when he would bounce off the ropes, he seemed like he didn't know which direction he was going. He seemed like he struggled to put Hulk over his head. Like a guy who had like an 8-pack. You know, you think the guy's so jacked, like the veins are ripping through his arms all the way to his forehead. Like,
so when I was looking at
go ahead.
How long he was wrestling for, it seems like it's a really short period of time. Do you all know why his run was so short? I figured it would be longer.
It's because he wanted more money as he got more popular.
Okay.
Yep.
And then Vince didn't want to pay him the money. And because, you know, Vince always believes that he makes you the star, that he doesn't need you. He could just make someone else.
I feel like he had like maybe, what was it, like a 4-year run or something like
that's
that?
just like the basic contract probably. And then it was time for a renewal at some point. And Vince was like, why am I going to sign you for an extended deal? I got Bret Hart coming up right now.
It's just kind of surprising,
you know,
because I feel like he's an icon, and then just to have such a short term, I was super surprised about that.
Yeah, and that's how it goes with some of the people, where it's like, if you think that Vince isn't going to pay you, he'll pay you.
Yeah.
But if you're going to try to hold Vince hostage to a deal, he'd rather just have you walk, and he'll just put someone else over.
I'm not quite sure, but I think it was SummerSlam of 1991 that he held Vince hostage for $50,000. Like, I'm not going to go out and do this unless I get this amount of money. So, I mean, Vince, being Vince, he paid him because the show must go on. Right. But the second he got backstage, it was like, you're fired. Like, you know, and what I did mention this to my girlfriend Andrea last night, you know, it's bittersweet because Ultimate Warrior had a big fallout. He did get fired eventually for steroids as well. He came back and you know, he didn't go over well, and then he went over to WCW for a bit. That didn't go well. Right. Trying to recreate this magic that we had here tonight, they're trying to recreate that in WCW. Didn't go well. You know, it's bittersweet because he eventually, many years later, I think it's 2014, he buries the hatchet with the company, right? The man gets inducted in the Hall of Fame on Saturday, right? Yeah. The man goes to WrestleMania on Sunday.
Right.
The man shows up on Monday Night Raw and talks to all his Warriors. Tuesday, he dies.
Wow.
So, like,
I saw that.
Talk about cutting it. It was very tragic because, like, it was like whenever a wrestler, whether it's Bret Hart, whether it's the Ultimate Warrior, whenever a wrestler somehow, some way, shape, or form buries the hatchet with Vince and the company and is able to step foot back into the company, it's always a sigh of relief. Like, okay, there's still hope. We, you know, whoever thought Vince would ever have Bret Hart come back? You know, whoever thought that he would ever let Ultimate Warrior ever step foot back in the company? You know, so seeing that happen, you know, as a kid, like the kid in me, it brought a tear to my eye to like see him in the Hall of Fame finally, to see him show up at WrestleMania, to see his wife there and his kids there, and then you know, to have the Warrior Award and everything, and like at WrestleMania, I mean at the Raw after, and then like, you know, like Tuesday, I get a text that the man passes away.
Wow.
And it's like, oh my God, like, it's like, it feels like he completed everything that he wanted to before he died. Like he had like one thing left he needed to do before he left this earth, and that was it.
Right.
And another, like I said, another guy on this card who passed away too soon. From years of steroid abuse, just like a lot of these wrestlers, that you may stop taking them at some point, but down the road, the damage is done. The damage is done to your body. It's going to catch up with you at some way, shape, or form, and it's really sad. But I do believe when Hulk wraps this match up, the original plan, well, not the original, but the plan that Hulk kind of kicked to Vince was like, let me turn heel. Like,
and that's what it kind of looks like. In between, Hulk Hogan does a lot of heelish moves.
Yeah.
Where he's kind of like arguing with the ref about holds and 4 counts or 5 counts, and I thought it was actually going to happen. When I was younger, and it doesn't really happen.
It had us believing a lot, and I'm kind of glad it didn't, because when he does turn heel eventually in WCW, it's kind of right. It's the right time for it, because the man goes to a different company, and you still think you're going to get the red and yellow Hulkamania. It's going to run wild forever, but that's when he turns to Hollywood Hulk Hogan, the original Triple H. But the original plan was he was going to walk down. He was going to give him the belt, and then he was going to walk down the aisle and then do that slow turn, and then come back and just wreak havoc on Warrior. But I'm kind of glad things went the way they did. And we talked about entrances being extravagant and stuff. This is the first time we get pyro in the ring.
Yeah,
we get a little bit of pyro, a little bit of sparkler in the background, but it's crazy to think down the road, like even today, how many wrestlers have pyro, and some people take that for granted. And for a short amount of time, a couple years ago, they were trying to save money, and we didn't have pyro, and I missed it. I missed small things like that, and pyro makes a huge difference for wrestlers. To have wrestlers without pyro, certain wrestlers. I don't mean like Akira Tozawa needs pyro.
So you're talking pyro, are you talking
the fireworks?
the fireworks?
Yeah, it's
fireworks.
It cements the whole change. Like, it's a celebration that Hulkamania is no longer on top of a WrestleMania. The torch has been passed, and here's a celebration of their new champion.
Okay.
Yeah, and it sucks that there was no rematch, which I feel like maybe at the time there should have been a rematch, but instead we go into feuds with like Rick Rude.
Yeah, Rick Rude, just because it was like he is the guy that beat the Warrior.
Yeah.
Even though like he did have some help when he did it.
Yep.
But it made sense, and also the Warrior had worked with him before, so it made sense to keep try to have someone familiar and that could work with him, because maybe Hulk Hogan didn't want to work with him too.
Right.
I mean, he did have, I think at this point, he thought he was gonna become a movie star. He had No Holds Barred come out like the previous year, when they had Zeus, the Human Wrecking Machine, and now we're starting to have like you mentioned, Mr. Nanny, Suburban Commando, like our viewer Anthony had mentioned, Thunder in Paradise, but that comes later on when he goes to WCW. But he's starting to put on these this family friendly movies, so I understand probably why it never happened, and that's it's kind of sad because they do deserve a better match. Like, this match goes for 22 minutes.
Okay.
But it's primarily a couple of power moves, a couple of shoves, a couple of shoulder like tackles and things like that, and then test of strengths, bear hugs.
Bear hug.
And they're not like for like 30 seconds and to plot out moves. These are like for like 2-3 minutes.
There's so many hugs.
And it's because the Warrior just couldn't go.
Yeah.
And it sucks but like Hulk is like, no, we're gonna give this crowd something. Like you guys are the main event. Like, this is back when the Intercontinental title was in its heyday, when it was like,
yeah, it was
like
meaningful
it
because
was
Honky
meaningful.
Tonk had held it for so long and built that
Yeah.
prestige that goes along with it. It's like, this is the stepping stone title. If you have the Intercontinental title, you're almost to be the man. You're the next in line, is how they set
Yeah.
this up after this WrestleMania.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I was
And
curious why there was so much filler with I'm like, yes, I am a fan of hugs, but there was just like a lot of bear hugs in this match. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is
yeah.
literally like 2 to 3 minutes of match time.
Yeah.
I was curious
And
to
then we
see.
have
Yeah.
a bump on the ref. I don't
Yeah.
remember if it's Earl or Dave. One of them takes the bump here.
Yeah, that
Yes.
referee gets wiped out by the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I'm not sure if that was supposed to happen because I don't think he looked like he was expecting it, the ref. Usually, you know, they take that bump, but he took it. He took a pretty, like, not a nasty spill, but he didn't take that bump right.
I feel like it might
Yeah.
have been
Yeah,
planned.
he took it. Well, if ref's gonna take a hard bump, he took a hard bump. Like,
Yeah.
because a Warrior was also known for like wrestling stiff and being, he would always be foot on the gas all the time. Like, this man, like, he had a match with Andre the Giant, and he was, you know, hitting Andre hard, and, you know, he's like, slow it down, boss. And you know, he kept coming at him through the ropes, like clotheslining him hard. And then one day Andre just put his ass down, and then he didn't come at him fast anymore. Like, Andre put him in his place.
That's right.
You know, it's and you could tell too, like, when you watch him wrestle, like, he doesn't know what he's doing most of the time, but when he is doing something, he's doing it fast and aggressive. Like, this guy seemed like he just wanted to blow through matches very quickly.
So we see them in WrestleMania 5, right?
We saw the Warrior and Rick Rude.
Oh,
yes,
him and
Rick,
and
Warrior
then
and Rick Rude.
that's when I had pointed out that Warrior tries to gorilla press Rick Rude, but he's like not able to actually do it, and he almost drops Rick Rude.
And that's crazy because Rick Rude's so much lighter than Hulk is.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, you're watching a guy like Ultimate Warrior, where this guy is probably, next to Rick Rude, probably the most jacked guy on the roster.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of jacked guys on the roster, but to have this guy, if there was a muscle, like I said, it was worked out and it was flexed.
Yeah,
this guy had like an 8-pack, you know. But he just, for some reason, he couldn't put pen to paper. It's just really, it's kind of a downer. But like, you know, as a kid, like, he had you still, he was able to mask all of that with the look, the promos, the music, the entrance,
the energy.
The energy he brought was able to mask all that. But like you said, Maria, it wasn't very long in his career because he wasn't in the business long, but he was able to fake it till you make it for just a small amount of time. And you know, I want to bring this up. Like, do you guys remember all the rumors as kids? Like, oh, the Warrior is dead, and he's being played by another guy.
Yeah,
you know, I would always remember that as a kid. Like, oh no, the real Warrior died years ago. This is another guy playing. I'm like, no, that was always a myth. Like, just like Brutus, Beefcake, and Hulk Hogan weren't real brothers, brother. Let me tell you something, dude. Like, they're not brothers. But yeah, just like Kane and Undertaker aren't really brothers. Neither is Edge and Christian. You know,
Spoiler, guys.
Sorry to break your hearts, everybody.